How much pressure is on Burrow to beat Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure, I would say, when it comes to how he plays.
Yeah.
This is a difficult matchup for Cincinnati. I think the biggest pressure or the most obvious thing is making some throws in comparison to last week. I don't believe that the wrist is going to be the end of Joe Burrow's career. I'm also not a doctor. I think last week, in specific to Joe, looked a lot like 2 seasons ago. Stephen A., you're a Steelers fan. That week 1 game against the Steelers, where he didn't look comfortable, he didn't trust the pocket, his pocket movement wasn't as dominant as it usually is. He looked a little unsettled when it comes to that. It looked way more like that than, oh my gosh, there's a concern that I don't think he can throw the ball as well or as a high level as he used to. So I think there's pressure for him to make some throws, but I think there's a little bit more pressure or a lot more pressure on, one, that offensive scheme to prove that it can do more than catch the ball in the shotgun and dink and dunk a throw. I think there's more pressure on Jamar Chase. The holdout's a very real thing right now. There were moments, J-Mac, you know it, where in that game, I go, why aren't you looking at Jamar?
Yeah.
I've seen you look at Jamar many times in these situations, and you just don't, and you choose not to throw it, or you maybe subconsciously don't throw. I think there's way more pressure on their defense to tackle a lot better. So I want to see Joe make some throws.
Yeah.
But there's other parts of that football team I have bigger issues with and more pressure on.
And I'm looking at this. I'm not putting that much pressure on Joe Burrow. The way they performed last week, to your point, them going out now beating the Kansas City Chiefs with as well as the Kansas City Chiefs looked in week 1 against the Baltimore Ravens, I'm not really seeing that. There's no T. Higgins in this game. Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs, is going to be dialing up the New England Patriots, who has a really good defense, but a team that a lot of people before the season was saying they'd be picking first overall in the NFL draft. They were able to punch the Cincinnati Bengals in the mouth, where they lined up with an extra offensive lineman and ran the ball. And on defense, they put a safety over the top of Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow and this offense couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
So my question marks are, can they be a good football team this year? Can Joe Burrow get it back going? I know he hasn't played since November. There's an offseason surgery. There's some rust that has to go along with it. But I'm not putting too much pressure, because right now, the Burrow Cincinnati Bengals, they're not at that level of the Kansas City Chiefs for me to be looking at this game and saying, oh, there's a ton of pressure on Joe Burrow to perform against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, there's a couple of things to point out. Number one, there's not pressure on Joe Burrow because Cincinnati, under the Zach Taylor era, has started off slow practically every season, and then they come on strong. So we can't forget that. That's number one. Number two, Joe Burrow has been at the helm when they've started off slow. And then number three, the brothers 3-1 against Patrick Mahomes. So he could lose now and win later. He's got that kind of capability available to him. He did beat Kansas City to get to the Super Bowl, 2 or 3 years back. So we can't forget that either. All right, this is Joe Burrow we're talking about here. When he's healthy, he can ball, and it's just that simple. But I think the bigger point to bring up here, fellas, is something as it pertains to Jamar Chase. He had 6 receptions, 62 yards. You are listening to a guy and looking at a guy right now who hopes Cincinnati loses every single damn game they play until they sign that man and they give him his money. I hope that the Cincinnati Bengals fall flat on their damn face. That organization makes me sick. This man, Mike Brown, here you are. You got Joe Burrow, who is an all-world quarterback, won a national championship at LSU, came into the NFL. He got injured his first year as a rookie. His second year, he comes back. His third year, he comes back. And all he does is go to back-to-back AFC championship games. This is an organization that spent years having fans wear bags over their head. This is how horrid they were with his notoriously cheap-ass self, okay? He was considered the damn Donald Sterling of the National Football League. And here you are, you luck up. You get a guy like Joe Burrow on your squad who flat out balls, and doesn't matter who he goes up against. You pay him his money, but then gonna give a problem to the people that he utilizes as his primary weapons.
Yeah.
We know T. Higgins is hurt, but the bottom line is T. Higgins was looking for his money. You didn't pay him, you should have paid him too. Jamar Chase is one of the top receivers in the National Football League. Are we going to deny that, Dan Orlovsky and Jason?
No, you're
Are we going to deny that? Jamar Chase is one of the top ballers in this game. That man deserves his money. He goes out there, he performs, he's focused. Joe Burrow utilizes them as a top weapon. He will talk smack to you, then he will get on the field and back it up. And that's one of the things that I'm sure RC and Swagoo will love what I'm about to say. It's one of the favorite things that I love about these cats from LSU. They talk a lot of smack against each other and compete against each other. You see what I'm saying? It's Odell Beckham Jr., it's Justin Jefferson, it's Jamar Chase, it's all of these cats. They talk about, and they're literally friendly, competing against one another about who's going to show out. And all of them can ball. All of them. And so you've got Joe Burrow out there as your quarterback. How the hell are you going to take care of the quarterback, but don't take care of what helps the quarterback be great? It's stupid. But this is what Mike Brown does.
To protect Joe Burrow as well.
Yeah,
of course.
That's
By the way, they let go.
I think only Russell Wilson's been sacked more.
Well, it's Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, Molly. Remember, over the last 2 years, Russell Wilson sacked 100 times, Justin Fields sacked 99. Over the last 2 years, nobody's been sacked more than Joe Burrow.
Since he was drafted, since 2020. I mean,
okay,
Russell Wilson more.
I got you. But I'm telling you this. In the end, Mike Brown, once again, with his cheap-ass self, all right, this man needs to be called for the carpet. I hope they throw the season down the drain and lose every damn game until they sign Jamar Chase.